Hello again. Welcome to my journey of building fitness from a fairly inactive summer where I was struggling for motivation, working too much and basically struggling with various fatigue issues, to hopefully doing 200-kilometre ride every month starting in December. The idea is based on the Randonneur Round the Year challenge of Odax UK, but I felt it was quite a good focus to build fitness and in a sustainable way and maintain fitness by doing 200 kilometres a month over a year, and then see what develops, see what other things I might fancy, and hopefully it'll all work out some interesting challenges over the summer. So up to now I've done a 100-kilometre ride a few weeks ago. I did a 100-mile ride, so 165 kilometres on Saturday, and this week's all been about recovery. It's worked out really well. I'm recovering much better this time than I did last time. I went into the ride in much better shape. Clare explains all the details in the next part of the video. Claire's been coaching me throughout this challenge, and well, over to Clare.
Hello, so John did his second test ride on Saturday and we are both really pleased with how it went. Lots of really good things to take from that. The first thing is that he achieved what he wanted to achieve. He wanted to do it in around at speed of around 20 kilometres an hour, and he did that, so that's brilliant. The main thing seems to be that he's recovering so much better from this ride than from his previous test ride. And that's great news because it sounds like we are managing the fatigue. There's a couple of reasons why this might be. The first is that John has made some positive life changes which will be helping his recovery. Two main things based on some things that we noticed. One is that he is getting more sleep now. He'd had a look at some of his Garmin metrics and noticed that over the past few months he'd been getting less and less sleep. So he's made a conscious effort to get more sleep by staying in bed until his alarm, not just jumping out of bed when he wakes up. And that does seem to have made a positive difference. The other thing is that in line with trying to get more sleep and a bit more relaxation and downtime, we've both committed to finishing work at a set time each day. And that again seems to have had a really positive effect at drawing a line under work, helping us both relax a little bit more and have a bit more time to ourselves. As a result of this, you can see in Garmin Connect that his HRV has now gone back in balance. It's still quite low, but there's not so much of the red imbalance line showing. There's more green line showing. So it seems that those things have had a great effect and enabled him to be a little bit more resilient to the long ride that he did on Saturday. In addition to that, I think overall, the way he managed the ride probably also is helping him to recover better as well. He started off nice and conservatively, and I think that probably paid off towards the end of the ride, because as you would expect with any ride or training session of that length, you are going to get fatigue, and you can see that. You can see that the heart rate goes up even when it's flatter at the end, and you can see that his cadence goes down, and those are all not unexpected. But he did eat really, really well throughout the whole ride, and he did drink well throughout the whole ride. And those things will help with recovery as well as help you with the ride itself. If you look at the data, you can see that although he's going at this nice steady pace the whole time, he doesn't really go very much above threshold. There's like maybe 1 or 2 points where he's pushing threshold and some points where he's in tempo, but the average heart rate is still very much in zone 2. The average power is still very much in zone 2. And I think just doing everything nice and conservatively like that means that although you're pushing the distance, you're not pushing absolutely everything. So it gives your body a bit more chance to recover. Just some of my thoughts in addition to some of the lifestyle changes that John's made. So we're really pleased with all that. We're having an easy week again this week to make sure that we're not getting this sort of secret build-up of fatigue over time, which can happen as well. But also because we're so pleased with the way the ride went on Saturday, we're going to move the 200 a bit earlier than we'd originally planned. This is mainly because when John finished the ride, he said, you know what, I feel like I could do 200 now. So, you know, if he feels ready, he probably is ready. We're planning on doing the 200 ride on the 2nd of December. This week has been an easy recovery week, so that next week John is ready for a week of training where we've kept to the usual routine with the dog walk on the Monday, the group Zwift ride on the Tuesday, intervals on Wednesday, the rest day on Thursday, which seems to be working well, the Zwift ride on Friday, and an endurance ride on Saturday. I've suggested 3 to 3 hours 30, but he can go to feel with that. If he feels like he wants to do much less, he can do much less. I wouldn't suggest doing more than 3:30, given that he's expecting to do this other long ride, the 200, the week after, so you don't want to be carrying too much fatigue into your taper week. For the intervals, they're pretty much the same as the EBR Club intervals. I've just given him a little bit of a longer rest between the intervals, simply because we kind of started the intervals a little bit behind where the EBR Club was, and the last set he did 4 by 5 minutes with 2 minutes recovery. So it seems a natural progression to try for 5 by 5 minutes, but with the same recovery in between, rather than trying to make too big a step on the hard session. That'll still be a good session, it'll still be a hard session for him and provide some training stimulus. The only other thing to add is that we are going to try to slowly introduce some strength into the regime. We're not going to go mad because we want to do this 200, so you don't want to change too much if things are working. But I've suggested that in addition to doing a little bit of yoga, which he is supporting this week without any problems, that we can introduce a plank. I quite like the plank as a strength exercise. It's easy to do, you don't need any equipment. You're in charge of how hard it is, because it's just a question of how long you can stay in the hold. And it is a good core workout. You're exercising all your muscles when you do that, especially if you do it, as I've suggested, both forwards, on the sides, and facing upwards as well. So we'll see how he gets on with that. He assures me that he's able to do it. So looking forward to the next ride and looking forward to seeing how John manages his full week of training next week.